You are listening to Right Off the Bus.
And we are back on this Wednesday, Pat. It is March 3rd, and we are already at episode 10 of Right Off the Bus. Cannot believe it. Pat, I sent you some stats the other day about a lot of podcasts not reaching certain dates and certain episode numbers and stuff. So, hey, 10 episodes, quick little milestone for us. Super excited about it. And we're going to keep them coming, man. Episode 50 is going to be here before you know it. Episode 100 is going to be here before you know it. We're going to keep grinding on it, but we're having a lot.
I can't believe it already, episode 10. That's crazy.
I know we're flying. We're a couple months in. COVID has let us work on this a little bit more than maybe we would have in the first place, but it's been a lot of fun. We're really enjoying it. So as we like to do, thank you to everyone listening out there. We really do love doing this and enjoy it. So shout out to you guys for getting us to episode 10, man. It's been a lot of fun, but Pat, little casual intro here. Just talk about what we got going on. I mean, for me, I had a great month of running in February. I hit 85.86 miles. I was trying to go 3 miles a day, and I got about 3.07 a day. And now I'm at 151 miles on the year, and my legs are in a lot of pain, and they hurt, and my knees are getting a little more messed up, and I got a foot problem, but still grinding on it. I'm going to crush some running goals this year. We're actually going to talk a little running on the podcast today, what a really talented runner is doing this week. But been a good month of running for me. Like we keep saying, like, we want to have more going on outside of these little things, but I really don't have much going on. So that's kind of what I'm focusing
well, we can tell who's the more active of the two. I have no statistics to list off. Chandler's got stats written down. I have nothing to share about my running stats for the year. I'd say it's at 4 miles.
Hey man, that's better than 0. I'm telling you. But Pat, I will say one of my favorite quotes: "What isn't measured cannot be maintained." And that's why I'm so intent on writing them all down and getting them in the spreadsheet, man, because you got to look at it and see what's going on. That's what all these darn books I'm reading are telling me. And I hope it works. I hope it works eventually. Yep. But my other thing, my girlfriend has a bunny. She has one bunny, and she actually just adopted a dog from Alabama. It's a Chihuahua and Jack Russell Terrier mix, they think. She's texting back and forth with the foster mom. They don't really know what it is. Looks a little too much Chihuahua, Pat. I just think it looks too much Chihuahua, and I do not want a Chihuahua, man.
Yeah, I can't do the ankle biter dogs. I don't know. When I get a dog again, I know it's gonna be like a big dog. I used to have a black lab, so that would be one I'd want. And I thought your girlfriend had 2 bunnies. Didn't she get a second bunny?
So this is
bringing up a rough topic here.
So not rough for me, but she won't listen to this, so it won't matter. But she adopted a second bunny to bring it in to see if it would bond with the bunny she had, and the bunny she had was attacking the other bunny. It was biting it. It literally jumped over the divider fence, like climbed up on furniture and jumped over to attack it while she was at work one day. Like, came home and there were chunks of fur around the apartment, dude. Like, so she had to give that bunny back because she brought it into an abusive home, which it's not her fault, but she kept trying to bond them over and over again, and it just never worked. Like, the bunny just said, "I don't want a friend. I don't want a friend."
That's crazy.
Get rid of her.
And were they both males? Like, was it a male and a female?
It was a male and a female, but they were both nude or spadered or whatever it's called, neutered or spayed. Yeah, I'm making up words here, but like, part of the process is you put them in a bathtub, and they're supposed to groom each other, and it's a neutral space, and like, the other bunny would just attack the new one, man. And it's like, she kept trying over and over again, and they kept telling her try and try and try. But at a point, dude, she was like, okay, this is not a safe environment for this bunny. I can't keep it. Like, this is messed up. And the place took it back, no problem, and it was already placed with a new family, so no worries at all.
All right, well, hopefully the bunny won't be attacking the new dog, because they seem to be on equal playing field here. They're kind of, from the sounds of it, they're kind of the same size.
Yeah. I think the bunny's like 4 to 6 pounds or something, and the dog they think is going to get up to 15 to 20. So I'm hoping the bunny's a bit submissive towards the dog, just since it's bigger. Dog will have more free roam of the condo, you know what I mean? But
so in the UFC, they'd be in different weight classes, is what you're saying.
They would, but the problem is it would be like flyweight and bantamweight or whatever it is. It's like the smallest ones possible.
Buddy might jump up a weight class and take on the might take on the new dog.
We'll see what happens. But she got a new dog. It's actually from Alabama, so it's being sent up here. She's picking up in Enfield, so you live 10 minutes from her, so that's not far. It's like a 40-minute
Yeah.
drive or something. But I'm excited, man. New dog. I just hope it's not a little rat dog. That's all I'm really hoping for. I don't like small dogs. I don't mind them. Like I'm obviously gonna love it. It's a dog, but like small dogs aren't my jam, man. They're
Yeah,
not the vibe I'm looking for.
we've both had small dogs. That was our most recent one. I know we actually had the same breed, and yeah, we can speak to, we love them. They're dogs, but nothing beats like a lab or like a good family dog.
Dude, I just want a dog that I can run around with and like wrestle with and play with. Like, you can't do that with a 10-pound dog. You know what I mean? You play tug of war with it and you just hold it there. You just don't move. Like, I want a dog I can play with, man. I want a dog I can
Yeah,
hike
yep.
with. Yeah, I'm definitely a full house over there, man. Definitely a full house. But moving on to a little bit of sports, Pat, we're going to switch it up and we're going to start with a couple just random headlines going around in the sports world that we don't always get to touch on. Pat and I speak a little long form too much, which I'm doing right now. I'm rambling and over explaining, but we just want to dive into some shorter headlines real quick, Pat. So if you want to start off with that first one about the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, so just random headline. So I was reading on ESPN. So the son of the former Green Bay Packers defensive tackle Ron Kostelnick, he lost his dad's Super Bowl II ring, which I believe Vince Lombardi was coaching at that time. So of a legendary status. So he and his family went to visit his daughter at Indiana University and take another daughter to tour Miami University in Ohio. He said he'd been wearing the ring but took it off, stored it in the car's console. Said he only made one stop along the way, a gas station in Indiana. When he was at University of Miami, Ohio, discovered the ring was no longer in the console. Family went back to the gas station to look for it and to report it missing to the police. They said it's possible the ring ended up on the floor of the car and was kicked outside of the vehicle, but no luck, and they're offering a $5,000 reward for its return. That is the gist of the story, but I could not imagine, let alone any Super Bowl ring, but Super Bowl II. I mean, that is like I don't so would they have 55? So about 53 years ago that ring's from, and literally one of the first rings to ever exist. I mean, that thing's got to be worth well more than $5,000.
That's what
So
I was thinking.
yeah, he's offering the reward, but you got to think some of the people that live in this country. I mean, it's going to be tempting that they're just going to keep it and like auction it off because you could probably get a lot of money for a ring like that.
Yeah, man, I feel so bad. And when you told me about this, I was just like, why are you wearing the Super Bowl ring out on college tours, man? Like you're driving in Miami, Ohio, and you're just wearing the Super Bowl ring that your dad won while you're driving around. Like
Yeah, it's
that
just a
thing would
huge flex, I guess.
that'd be like in a little glass case for me, dude. I'd have it like on display right here. I'd probably put it in one of those little like baseball things and like, dude, I just can't imagine just walking around flexing a ring. But also, since it is Super Bowl II, maybe it's like much smaller. It's probably not as
Yeah, I
flashy,
don't
but
know.
the
I don't know what those
historical
rings looked like.
the historical significance, man. Like, oh, your dad's a Super Bowl champion, and you're just walking around with a Super Bowl ring on. You didn't win it.
Yeah,
It's your
that's a
dad's.
tough day. That's a tough day at the office. That's for sure.
That is tough, man. That is tough. I definitely feel for him. And Pat, the next thing, if you want to dive into it, Josh Gordon and the FCF, man.
Yeah, so Josh Gordon out of nowhere joining fan controlled football, and he's gonna join Johnny Manziel's team actually, the FCF Zappers, owned by Bob Menery, who I know you're familiar with.
I love Bob.
So for anyone that doesn't remember, Josh Gordon and Johnny Manziel were actually teammates for a brief time on the Browns. Both kind of ended in disaster. So I guess coming full circle in terms of that career. But for a little background on the fan controlled football, if anyone doesn't know what it is, I was actually unfamiliar with it. Obviously, I'd heard of it, but I didn't really know exactly what it was. So the league began play in February. It features 7-on-7 games where fans set the rosters, call plays, and interact to kind of blend traditional and esports environment. So it's kind of a creative idea. And they're going to do a 6-week schedule. The games are live streamed on Twitch from a league-based facility in Atlanta. The games last about an hour. and the field is 50 by 35 yards with 10-yard end zones. So it's a really short field, right? Because
Yeah.
normally 100 yards, obviously. So it's half the size. The games are a quarter of the length. Sometimes NFL games go 4 hours. It's
Yeah.
only an hour long. So I mean, it's interesting what audience they're appealing to, but there is an appeal to it for sure. I think with how things are going in sports, obviously you see baseball trying to speed up the game, and I don't think NFL is a game that you need to speed up, but there could be a market for it. The XFL didn't work out. Fan controlled football, maybe it will, especially with the platform they're going for, Twitch, which is just, esports, video games, things like that. So it's kind of, I think they know who their market is, who they're trying to appeal to, probably ages like 15 to 25, something like that.
Yeah, and this is an interesting league, and you're talking about the market they're looking for. I think that there is a chance that this league succeeds because of that. Like, I personally have never hopped on a Twitch stream to watch, but I know all my friends watch Twitch streams. Pat, you watch Twitch streams, man. So the fact that maybe rather than sitting there watching someone play Madden online or playing COD, you can go watch a live football game where the fans of the game are actually changing the outcome of it as it goes. Like, dude, this league does rock paper scissors for the ball. Like, not a coin toss. Like, you walk out and do rock paper scissors, which is nuts. So I think that just this really weird niche league could have some potential because they are doing things so outside the box. Literally, they're like, all right, well, if our fans don't like something, we're gonna change it. And it's like,
Yeah,
it's
the whole thing
interesting.
is, it's so surreal to me. It's like, and they're getting good players. I mean, Manziel, obviously, we don't know. I mean, he's still a good player, but like not NFL caliber apparently.
Mm,
But then they're getting Josh Gordon, a guy who, barring all his problems, like just set all that aside, he was one of the best receivers. He could have been one of the best receivers of all time. I think skill wise and
yes.
just physicality wise, speed wise, he was one of the best receivers that we had in the NFL, and it's a shame what happened to him. But for them to get a talent like that, and I mean they're probably not drug testing over there, so I don't know. I don't know if Josh Gordon's in rehab. I don't know what's going on. I wish him the best, but I'm just saying I don't think that's a policy over there at fan controlled football.
I wouldn't imagine that it is. Yeah, dude, Josh Gordon led the league in receiving yards his last full season in the league, and it was like 2014. The
Hmm.
fact that it has been this long, man, I mean, this guy was the best receiver in the league outside of Calvin Johnson that year. And he had over 1,400 yards. This dude was unbelievable. And like you said, could have been an all-time great. Just hope that he stays healthy, man. Hope that he stays clean, Go smoke some weed, do your thing, Josh, but please stay away from the rest of the drugs. Like,
We
and
shouldn't be encouraging it. The guy was in
hey,
rehab like 3 times.
everything's good in moderation, right? No, I'm just playing, man. He needs to stay clean and healthy. We know that, but I don't know if hanging out with Johnny Manziel is the way to do it. But we'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
another
Uh,
guy who was in rehab.
Another real quick thing on this, dude. I'm pretty sure these teams like redraft every week or like every 2 weeks or something. Like the players on these teams rotate, and I don't know any of the names of the teams outside of the Zappers. I've seen them all. Like
Yeah,
you might
I
be on
only
this.
knew this. I
You
only
might
knew
be on the
this because of
Zappers. Go ahead.
sorry. I only knew this because of Josh Gordon, just because of the headline. I only knew about the Zappers. I didn't know any other I didn't know any other team name.
Yeah, I followed them on Instagram, so I've scrolled and like seen them a little bit, but I'm pretty sure you can play for the Zappers one week and then maybe next week you're drafted to a different team and you're playing with different guys. Like it is nuts. And who is it? Dalvin Cook is now a part owner of one of these teams. I think that I
Yep,
sent
yep.
you.
Yeah,
Like,
he is.
this league is interesting, man. This league is really interesting. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with it. The XFL, I thought had a chance to succeed because they were doing some fun stuff, but COVID just bankrupted them, unfortunately. So we'll see what happens with the FCF, man. It's fun. It's weird. I'm probably never going to watch a full game, but I enjoy the
Probably not.
highlights and I enjoy the memes. Their social media team's doing a good job. They're growing fast. Go check them out. I like it. I
Yeah,
like it.
if I'm on Twitch one day, I might check it out.
Yes, Pat, and we don't have any actual football scheduled this week, but we continue to touch on football because that's what we do. So we just talked FCF. You want to jump into the unfortunate news about Vincent Jackson real quick?
Yeah, Vincent Jackson, longtime receiver of the NFL. He was on the Chargers and the Bucks, both long time. And I got to see him play in Tampa when I went to a Bucks Ravens game. I think it was my junior year of high school. And he was always one of my favorite receivers, but seeing him play in person was unbelievable too. I mean, he was one of the most skilled receivers of all time, a great guy. I know everyone loved him. Mike Evans speaks highly of him, anyone you talk to. And it is a real shame. The thing where they found him in his hotel room, I know that I guess there was a report saying he could have died at least 3 days before even being found. We have no idea what happened, but we do know one of the Jackson family spokesperson confirmed to ESPN that they're donating his brain to Boston University's CTE Center. So they're going to try to learn more about his death. They'll dissect, sorry, that's kind of a harsh word. They'll look at his brain and see exactly the science behind it, what happened, if he was suffering from anything, or what the cause of death even was. We don't really know. But yeah, it was a real shame to see. I know you were upset about it too.
Yeah, man, Rip Vince. This was one of the first receivers in the NFL that, like, growing up, I was like, man, this is a guy that I want on a team because he was just so big and physical, and he could block, and he'd go up over guys and just make those spectacular catches. And you mentioned Mike Evans. When Mike Evans was drafted, I'm like, what a perfect vet for Mike Evans. What a perfect mentor to follow and see him work and
That's a
see
good point.
his grind. And, like, man, Rip Vincent Jackson, I've said it a couple times, but I used to play with this dude in Madden all the time. Being a Pats fan, I would trade for him every chance I got if I was doing a Pats franchise, because the Pats never had a big physical receiver that could go win balls in the end zone. And, man, I love playing with this dude. Loved watching him. Rip to Vincent Jackson and his family, man. It is sad, it is unfortunate, but I am happy that his family decided to donate his brain to research. And hopefully, obviously CTE has ruined so many people's lives. So hopefully, there is some positive research that comes out of his family's donation.
Yeah, I think there will be. And then this news, actually, the next headline came out, I think, like 2 hours after we recorded last week. So we really just missed it on the most recent update. I know everyone knows about it, but Tiger Woods was in that car accident. I think it was last Tuesday when we recorded. But not much detail has emerged yet, even in the whole entire week that's followed. They don't know why he crashed, but the injuries do sound significant. I know he had multiple compound fractures in his legs, among other things. I wasn't aware of all the details. But this combined with all his back issues, I mean, I don't know if his career is going to be over, but if it is, what a career it's been. What a ride it's been. I mean, he really did have a comeback from what
Mhm.
happened in the past. I never thought he would even come back from what happened in the past, from that whole situation, which now is like years and years ago.
Yeah.
But the fact that he did come back between back surgeries and all the drama and all sorts of issues, it was amazing. So if this is the way he goes out, it's sad, but you got to respect Tiger. And I know the entire league does, the entire PGA organization, because on the last day of the WCG Workday Championship they just had, all the golfers they wore Tiger's signature Sunday red. I don't know if you saw that. Even guys like Bryson DeChambeau, Jason Day, all the big golfers, all the big names were paying tribute wearing his Sunday red. It was weird too. They kind of looked like Tiger. Like I'd never seen
Mhm.
anyone. Nobody wears the Sunday red except for Tiger. It's like a respect thing. But now,
Right.
as he was in his accident, everyone wore that. So that was kind of cool coming out of the golf world.
Yeah, no, that absolutely was. Definitely praying for Tiger and hoping he's okay. And like you said, you hope that this isn't the end, but it probably should be. I mean, this guy has had more corrective surgeries on his back than anybody, time and time again. He's in his mid to late 40s, and they say that there are some serious leg injuries sustained from this accident. So I hope that Tiger just rehabs, gets healthy, and lives out the rest of his life without golfing, man. You don't need it anymore. All he needs to do is train his son, because, man, Charlie looks like an absolute stud. But one thing I'll mention on the red shirts real quick, I was scrolling on Twitter, and I don't remember what golfer it was, but he said, unfortunately, like, I didn't pack any red and black this week, like, and my sponsors aren't here or whatever, so I'm not able to, like, participate in this, but, like, I love you, Tiger, all this stuff. And this dude was getting so much flack on social media for saying, sorry, I can't participate in this. I just literally don't have the clothes. I didn't pack red. No one packs red, like you just said, because it's Tiger's thing.
Yeah,
You just don't pack red. And everyone was going at him. And I just loved the tweet he sent out afterwards. And he goes, I'm sorry that me not having a red shirt doesn't mean I love Tiger. I hope that me spending my entire life trying to mimic his golf game and being obsessed with him and idolizing him and studying him is enough. You know, I hope that's enough for you guys instead of me wearing a red shirt. And I was just like, man, people just want to get mad about anything now. Dude doesn't have a shirt and they're freaking out on him. Like, just let the man golf.
Yeah, even the golf fans coming out of the woodwork, the angry golf fans.
But yeah, I mean, obviously horrible what happened to Tiger, and it was really cool, like you said, to see the entire golf community come together, because if Tiger's not the GOAT, he's top two. You know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly. Yep.
So a lot of respect to Tiger, obviously praying for him and a speedy recovery.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pat, you know we have to talk some basketball with what's been going on the last week in the NBA. It is the All-Star preview show here on Right Off the Bus. You know, we got to talk about the All-Star selections in the NBA. It's always fun to debate these and be the armchair analyst that we like to be. So starting with the East starters, man, Kevin Durant is voted as captain. I ain't mad. KD's one of the best players in the world. He's one of the best players all time. Single greatest offensive basketball player ever, man. Get this guy starting in every All-Star game. I'm absolutely for it. This is his 11th All-Star, but he's injured, so he can't play. So Jason Tatum is jumping up from the reserves here to be a starter in the All-Star game. We could talk about that a little bit later, but Giannis is one of the other forwards, dude. Makes perfect sense. Giannis is averaging 29, 6, and 12, man. The Bucks aren't doing everything that they should be doing, but Giannis has still been a freight train tearing through the league. Brad Beal, love that he got the All-Star start, man. This is his third All-Star. This dude's leading the league in scoring and absolutely tearing everybody apart. Like, Brad Beal's been balling. I know the Wizards are bad, even though they've been on a little winning streak lately, even though the Celtics beat him yesterday. But Brad Beal, he probably should be there. Embiid MVP discussion, dude. The Sixers are first in the East. This dude's averaging 30 and 11 and been as clutch as any player in the league. Saw this dude have a step back the other day, and I'm like, a 7'1" man should not be allowed to do that. That is just that can't be right.
Embiid is a beast. He really is. I never thought highly of him, but this year he's been unbelievable. And I know he's been great in past years too. He's a 4-time All-Star, obviously, but this year especially is something special.
No, without a doubt. I mean, the comparisons for him were always Hakeem Olajuwon, which is ridiculously unfair because Hakeem's a GOAT, top 15 player ever in my opinion.
Yeah, that might be. I don't think we could quite go there yet.
But the thing is, this kid's footwork, man, and his ability in the post and the shot blocking ability and the mid-range and man, Embiid's playing crazy. I love that he's the starter here. It's already his 4th All-Star, which is kind of nuts to think about. He didn't play in his first 2.5 seasons for the most part. And then rounding out the East starters, Pat, we got Kyrie Irving from the Brooklyn Nets, man. And Pat, this is kind of the one that I want to start on here, talking about the East starters. So I do not think that Kyrie Irving should have been an all-star starter. And I am not just a petty Boston fan who is angry at Kyrie for, saying, I'm going to get my jersey retired here. I can't wait to re-sign here, says it to the fans. Then comes back and starts burning sage, trying to get all the bad demons out of, the TD Garden and all that stuff, man. Like, I want to be petty towards Kyrie. That's how I operate. But I'm not even petty right now. Kyrie just flat out shouldn't be an all-star starter. He just flat out shouldn't. This guy played 24 games. Guess who played 5 more games than him that's on the East bench? James Harden, his teammate in Brooklyn. Harden's averaging 25, 11 assists, 7.5 rebounds. Kyrie's averaging 27.5, 6, and not even 5 rebounds. Harden's stats are blowing this guy out of the water. Harden's been way better. Harden has been the key to this team. We've talked about it. This dude is the playmaking god in Brooklyn right now. He has all the best assist games ever, leading the league in assists. Totally has changed what this team is doing on offense. Totally changed what Kyrie is doing on offense. And he's played more games. He's putting up better stats. He's been more important to the wins. And he's not starting over Kyrie. Why is he not starting?
You wonder with the selection, why that made sense. Why that, what was the defining factor that made them pick Kyrie over James Harden? Because in my mind, I agree with you. I think Harden, he had the better stats, obviously. Maybe not, a 1.5 lower in terms of average, but assists and rebounds were higher. Assists was way higher, and Kyrie should be getting plenty of assists. I don't get it. So I
6
really
versus
don't.
11 assists.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know like what the thought process was there. I don't know if it's because Harden just came over to the East, but like you said, he played more games than Kyrie did. I really don't understand the the thought process in the selection. Because in my mind, I agree with you. I would have put Harden over Kyrie, definitely. I think Harden's been a bigger factor for the Nets. Like you said, for a while, KD was out, Kyrie was gone, and it was just James Harden. And the Nets were doing fine.
Kyrie literally just left the team too. Like this dude just straight up was gone for 6 games.
Yeah, like
Like
that
that,
didn't that didn't affect the decision process. The fact that he
you
just left for like 2 weeks.
you would think that when people are looking at this, they're looking at those things and they're saying, "All right, who's going to represent the NBA?" The only reason a guy like Zion gets in is because they want him to represent the NBA. It's brand and image, dude, and it's like, man, Kyrie has been so outspoken against the NBA. Kyrie has started about talking to other basketball leagues. Like he's just I love Kyrie as a basketball player. This dude may be the most skilled basketball player ever when you look at the way that he has the ball on a string. But I think that this was the biggest problem in the East. I think this is the second biggest problem in the All-Star starter selections, but number one in the East for sure. The other one's in the West, but I don't think Kyrie should have been there, man. I definitely don't. Were there the other thing with the starters, Pat, is that Jason Tatum is the one that gets to bump up and replace Kevin Durant as an all-star starter. Now, the only reason that I can make this make sense is because they play the same position. When you look at this starting lineup, you need another forward in there. So it doesn't really make sense to put James Harden in there. Like you're not replacing a 6'10 guy with a 6'5 guy that plays different positions. But then I'm like, all right, well, Jaylen Brown's a guard too. And Zach LaVine's a guard too. And Ben Simmons is a guard too. So
Yep, yep.
it's Julius Randle, Jason Tatum, Sabonis, or Vucevic. And Sabonis was a reserve or was in for Kevin Durant. He was the replacement.
Hmm.
So I guess Tatum is the right guy. Tatum's the best player there. He's been doing awesome things for the Celtics all year. Another guy that missed a couple games. But other than Julius Randle, I don't know if you can put anyone else into the starting lineup. And I do not think that the NBA is willing to put Julius Randle into an NBA All-Star starting lineup. I don't
No,
think that
because I was surprised.
they would ever do it.
Because I was surprised, but also happy for Julius Randle that he got the selection. But yeah, that's not a guy that the NBA is going to slot into the starting lineup. And it's interesting because when you look at Zach LaVine's listing, like on NBA.com or wherever you look, he's listed as guard/forward. So I think, I mean, hey, if you're willing to pick Kyrie as the starter in the East, I think you could replace, instead of Tatum going into the starting lineup for Durant, I think you could have put in Zach LaVine. He's a long guy. He's got better stats than Tatum. I think he's more important now that, that's going to be an overstatement. I was going to say he's more important to the Bulls than Tatum is to the Celtics, but that's just not even true.
Bulls
But
might be underwater without Zach LaVine, man.
I guess, see, you got where I was coming from. I think
I understand it. It's a conversation.
It's not a matter of him being more important because obviously if the Celtics don't have Tatum, I don't know where we stand. I know we don't stand highly right now, but I think we stand to lose even more if we don't have Tatum. But I think Levine's a guy you could have slotted in there. I think you could have justified it. Definitely. Ben Simmons is like, what is he, like 6'10"?
Yeah.
He should not be listed as a guard. I don't know why he even plays guard. He's a guy who could post up because he's not shooting. He's a terrible shooter. It's like as a guard, I know he gets good all-around numbers, but Ben Simmons shouldn't even
He's
be
a
in
point
this.
guard, man. He's a passer.
I don't even think he
That's
should
what
be on
is.
this roster, to be honest. I don't think he should have been
What?
selected. I don't agree.
What?
I don't agree. I don't think I can't list off the top of my head who I would have had in over him. I'd have to look at all-star
That's the
snubs.
rule,
But
Pat. That's the rule. You gotta have
yeah,
someone.
if I'm
You're gonna say
if I'm
someone.
saying if I'm saying he doesn't belong, I gotta have a list of like who I'd put in over him. You know what? I'll come
Jimmy
back.
Butler, Bam.
I'll blast it on Twitter. I'll have my list ready for you right now. I don't have
All
my list, but
all right. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll have you put that out because that's the rule, Pat. If you take someone out, someone has to go in, man. And Simmons might win Defensive Player of the Year this year if Joel Embiid doesn't. So we'll see. I'm telling you, man. Don't.
it's
sleep
all
on
about
Simmons.
numbers, though. Come on, it ain't
It
about
is.
defense in this league. It's
And
all about
also,
numbers.
All-Star game, like when you said Zach LaVine, I was like, you can't start Zach LaVine. And I'm like, who's more fun to watch in an all-star game than a guy that can dunk from the free throw line and take step back threes?
Exactly. If they're looking for brand and excitement, throw him in.
Honestly, just swap Zion over, man. Put him in the starting lineup for the East, even though he's in the West.
Yeah.
If you're looking for box office. All right, we're going to dive into the East reserves a little bit after, Pat, but getting on to the West starters. So the West starters, man, I guess I should start with the captain, actually, LeBron James. What are you going to say about LeBron, man? LeBron's doing it. The Lakers are a top team in the West. LeBron's still averaging his 25 and a half, his 8-8, which is just absurd in year 18. This guy's 36 and has higher expectations than any other player in the league. And when he doesn't win a single game without Anthony Davis, then he just gets destroyed all day, every day, the next day. We have ridiculous expectations of this guy. He continues to do it. Well, I mean, look at this, 17-time All-Star. It's his 18th year in the league. That is ridiculous. This guy is next level. He's LeBron. It is what it is. He deserves to be there and be the captain. Steph Curry, man, I'm so happy Steph is back. I am so pumped this guy is here. I'm so pumped that he's starting the All-Star game. He has the Warriors in the playoff picture right now with no Klay Thompson. James Wiseman's missed a big stretch. They've had some players playing really inconsistent, so shout out to Steph for being in here. 29 and a half, 6.4, and 5.5 rebounds. That 5.5 rebounds from Steph is not insignificant either. It is really not. Kyrie's only averaging 4.7, man. What's Steph doing better than Kyrie getting on the glass? Luka, this is where I have a problem with the starting lineup, but I'll get to that, once I run through the rest of the list. Luka's averaging 28 and a half, 9 and 8.5. Mavs aren't in the playoffs yet. KP just came back, so we'll see what happens with the Mavs. But even Luka said he shouldn't be a starter. He said, I don't deserve it. I should be a reserve. So we'll get into that. But Nikola Jokic, man.
Luka, don't count yourself short. Come on, I agree.
Pat's like, dang it, now I got to go against Luka. But Nikola Jokic, man, the Nuggets, it is what it is with Jokic. Him and Embiid are the two best bigs in basketball, outside of Anthony Davis, of course, when he's not playing right now. 26 and a half, 8.5 assists, 11 rebounds. Where are you going to find a guy averaging 26 and a half, 11, and 8.5, man? That is so unbelievably ridiculous. This guy is the greatest playmaking center of all time, best passing center ever, and I don't think it's close. Sorry, Arvydas Sabonis. Sorry, the Gasol brothers, dude. Kevin Love. No, it's Nikola Jokic. It's not close. This guy's going to do it for 10 more years, too. He's going to break some records, guaranteed.
Yeah, he's still young. I mean, he's
like
coming
25.
He's coming into his prime, just now, and he's averaging a triple-double, well, almost a triple-double, as a center. It's ridiculous.
It's scary. It is scary, Pat. And Kawhi Leonard's the last one. Same deal. What are you going to say about Kawhi, man? His 5th All-Star selection. Clippers are balling out 27, 5, and 6. Kawhi's hitting big shots at the end of games. He's doing his thing. I'm not mad at Kawhi. But, Pat, my biggest problem in all of the All-Star selection is Luka Doncic being on that list right there. Damian Lillard needs to be starting in this game. Damian Lillard is a West reserve, averaging 30 points, 8 assists, 4.5 rebounds. And let me tell you who the Portland Trailblazers have been missing for the majority of the season. CJ McCollum has been out for 70% of the year. So has Nurkic. He's been out for most of the year. This dude is missing his 2nd and 3rd best player, has the Blazers in the playoffs, team on his back every single night, and you've never once heard him complain, man. He says, give me my respect. He says, things like that. He says, I'm a baller. I need my respect. But he never complains. He never says, I'm going to join a super team. He never says, I need more guys. I need other horses, man. This dude just goes out and performs every single night. It's Dame time every single night, even without a couple starters on his team. Man, I think Dame needs to be starting in this game. I honestly don't know why Luka's there above him. I don't.
I love those other guys on the Blazers, but I feel like every time I look at the Blazers or I watch a Blazers game, I'm like, this is like Damian Lillard, 1v5.
Yes.
Especially you watch the playoff performances. I'm like, it's all on Damian Lillard's shoulders. I'm like, is there going to be anyone else? And CJ McCollum is nasty. He's awesome at basketball. I love him. I've loved him ever since I saw him in the NCAA tournament when I forget what team he was on. He was on like a
Lehigh
15.
when he
Lehigh.
Lehigh
Yeah, yep. And
15 beating 2 seed Duke. Pat, thanks for
yeah,
bringing it
that's
up.
because him and Lillard remind me because I remember Lillard was on I think it was Weber State too, and they made
Yep.
they were a surprise team in the tournament as well. But
That
yeah,
mid-major backcourt.
regardless of like McCollum and his play, it's like every time I look at the Blazers, it's Damian Lillard against the world, and I love Luka. It's tough to really bounce him as a starter just because he's unreal. I mean, he's 20. He just turned 22 years old. I think he just turned 22. And look what he's doing. I mean, he's a staple of the league already. He's 28.5 points per game, 9 assists, 8.5 rebounds. It's tough to justify taking him out. I know Lillard almost 30 points a game, 8 assists, 4.5 rebounds, and 4.5 rebounds from a point guard, especially, when Lillard, like you said, doesn't have those other guys like Nurkic too. I mean, he's doing everything. He's all around the court. I still think it's tough to justify taking Luka out, but I could see the argument. I could see, putting Lillard in. I really don't know where I stand on that. I mean, I could go either way. I would feel bad if they took Luka out, but it would make sense at the same time that they would start Lillard because obviously you can't take Curry out.
Right. And I mean, Luca is just way too box office. Like he's one of those guys where he's doing the step backs, he's doing everything. He's European, so he's foreign, and there's an international appeal to Luca. And he speaks all these different languages, and he's a great kid, and he's been a pro since he was 14. And the story's there, man. This kid is a star, right? Like this kid is a top 10 player in the league for the next 10 years if he continues what he's doing, as long as he starts winning. So it is tough. And especially as a Celtics fan, man, watching those 2 dagger threes that Luka hit the other night, those step backs, man, it's like what can't this guy do? And obviously he's doing it all. But I just me, Pat, I am all about wins, and I understand that team wins are not an individual stat. And I think that especially in football, like wins are not a quarterback stat. I think that's one of the worst things. So it's tough to make wins a stat for these guys. But if your team isn't in a playoff position, it's just very hard for me to want to get you in there. And I understand I'm hypocritical because I just said Bradley Beal should be a starter, but there's no one to replace Bradley Beal. There's guys to replace, or not even guys. There's a guy to replace Luka, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, I think
you, unlike me, you were prepared and had a guy to replace, one guy in, one guy out. So
it's just been the debate since these have come out, man. It's like, damn, but who knows? It is kind of symbolic at a point, but I hope that Dame's the first guy off the bench, and I hope that James Harden's the first guy off the bench in the East. Like, I kind of like that hierarchical feel in there still, because if you bring in Sabonis and Booker as the first guys off the bench, the 2 replacement reserves, like that just doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Get the main guys the touches. But were there any other problems you had with the West starting lineup? Because for me, that was the only one.
Yeah, to me, I think the West made more sense than the East. And maybe the thing with the East is like Durant getting injured and Tatum going in. Maybe that's why it didn't make as much sense. But I have no issues with the West because, like I said, you can't really, like with Lillard, I mean, it's hard to justify taking out Doncic. Like you said, he's got the international appeal. He's just a superstar. And regardless of Lillard's play since he came into the league, Doncic, like I said, he's 22. He just turned 22, and he's just an absolute star in the league. So it's for branding and for views. It's like you got to have Luka in the starting lineup. So I have no issues because the stars are there. I mean, LeBron in his 18th year. You got Steph Curry. Obviously, he's going to be there. Luka. Jokic might be the quietest one there. I think Jokic is the guy that's there strictly because of his play. Because no one's, shouting from the rooftops, Nikola Jokic, besides Nuggets fans, no one's like selling out the Jokic jerseys. But that guy is there strictly because of his play. And maybe, I mean, would Anthony Davis what would the starting lineup been if Anthony Davis wasn't hurt?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He's been hurt enough to the fact that he wouldn't be taken as a starter. So like he was named an all-star reserve because coaches pick the reserves.
Okay.
So he was named a reserve, and then he was bumped out of the game because of the injuries. Like he played enough games, and 23, 8.5 rebounds. He was playing really well. This is kind of one where people are like, should he have been there? He's been out for a while. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, but I think it makes sense that he's there. And Devin Booker was his replacement, obviously. I think it
And
makes sense for AD.
And that was what I was happy about, was that Devin Booker made it, because you tell this guy, oh, all you got to do is win games and you'll get an all-star selection. And then what do? He doesn't get selected. He was a replacement all-star last year. He should have been in just by himself. It shouldn't have been a replacement. And the same with this year. They put, and I, like you said before we started this, Chris Paul is kind of the reason. He's been the glue for the Suns and why they're 21-11 and the 4th seed in the West. But how could you put Chris Paul in over Devin Booker? Devin Booker has been there for years, putting in the work. He's got the better statistics. And regardless of him not being the glue, I think he's the best playmaker on the league or on the team. He's the best scorer that they have, outright scorer. I think justifying Chris Paul in over Devin Booker, that would have been news to me. I'm surprised that they did it. But I'm just happy that Devin Booker got in after to replace Anthony Davis.
Me too. Yeah, absolutely. And I thought he should have been on over Chris Paul to start. Like you said, better score. I mean, Chris Paul is the better playmaker. Obviously, the 9 assists. He's the point god. He's one of the greatest ever at his position. But let's not forget, I mean, this Suns team went 8-0 in the bubble last year. Chris Paul wasn't on that team. Like, they've clearly been building something beforehand. And Chris Paul has elevated DeAndre Ayton and Mikal Bridges and Devin Booker and everyone on that team. But D-Book should have been in the All-Star game to start over Chris Paul. And Chris Paul could have been that reserve to replace Anthony Davis, because they're the 4 seed in the West, man. They're something like 21-11 or 20-11. They're playing great. They're playing awesome basketball. They're a lot of fun to watch. And D-Book is a killer, man. And I'm excited that he finally has another like legit star next to him in Chris Paul, because it really has elevated his game. And you would think that, the maturity and everything, has definitely gone up since a guy like CP comes into the locker room, even though he's getting paid 40-something million a year.
Yeah,
it is a tough contract to take on. It
Yeah,
definitely
the argument is kind of pointless just because they're both in the All-Star game. But I would agree with you. And like I said, I think it should have been rotated. Like, Devin Booker should have been in, and Chris Paul should have been the guy that came in as a replacement. So I would agree with you there for sure.
And that was my only problem with the All-Star West reserves. I thought they did a fantastic job with it. I mean, AD, that one's kind of iffy, but I still personally think that he should have been in. Paul George, I think he should be there. Paul George is on track to maybe be the second ever 50-50-90 player, which is just ridiculous. Steve Kerr is the only guy to ever do it. But if he could legitimately do 50-50-90 for the rest of the season, field goal, 3-point, and free throw percentage, I mean, that is stupidly historic. It's ridiculous. Rudy Gobert deserves to be there. Donovan Mitchell deserves to be there. Those two guys, the Jazz are the best team in basketball. They're absolutely balling out. I was kind of like, I kind of want to see a Jazz player in the starting lineup. But again, the guard play is way too good for Mitchell to be there. And Gobert is nothing compared to Jokic, in my opinion. Obviously, wildly different players. But, Jokic is far and away the better big there. Dame, obviously, I think he should be a starter, but I'm glad he got in. We talked about CP and D-Book, but Zion too. Zion deserves to be an all-star this year. Zion is 20 years old. 25 and a half, man.
Yeah, you forget how young he is, man. It's crazy. These stars are getting younger and younger.
Yeah, 25 and a half, 7 boards, 3 assists. It doesn't sound that great. He has the best field goal percentage in the league. He has the most points in the paint per game in the league. Dude scores 20 points a game in the paint. Every single shot is just from 3 feet left of the basket, but no one can stop him, man. This guy's bounceability, man, the ability to just get right back up after having just landed. He puts a shot up and he's already grabbing the rebound. It's like, dude, is that a travel? Is that a double dribble? Like, I don't know. Did you just pass to yourself? Because he just springs. I love watching him. I thought that they did a really good job with the West, other than obviously D-Book and CP. I'd like those to be switched. And then Dame should be starting for me, but I like the reserves a lot. I just wish we could see like the honorable mentions in the breakdown. Like, who's the next guy? And who's the next guy? Like, who's a fringe all-star that didn't get in? And they don't put it out, but I would imagine that would motivate the heck out of a player to know I was the next guy. If there was another injury, I would be the replacement all-star. And I'd like to know who it is. I think it would be really interesting.
Yeah, I would too. There's probably a list we could look at for like snubs. Maybe we'll do a tweet of that as well. We'll do our all-star snubs once we actually look at, who was right there that we think should have been there. So it's kind of tough to say who would have been a good replacement in terms of reserves. But I agree with you. I think the West did a good job. And I do think Zion deserves to be there, not just because of, branding and because he's going to be like the face of the league if he stays healthy and he actually performs to what he's capable of. So not just because of that, it makes sense that he's there as a reserve, definitely.
Yeah, and then quickly on the East reserves, it's funny when you look at these side by side, and the one I'm looking at, if anyone wants to check it out, is just NBA.com All-Star roster. So go check it out. But when you look at these side to side, the West is just so much better than the East. It's ridiculous. Like the East reserves, man. Obviously Tatum's bumped to the starting lineup, but Tatum, Brown, Harden, Levine, Randall, Simmons, Vucevic, Sabonis. And I'm like, so Sabonis and Booker are the same level. They're the next guy in. They're the replacements. Vucevic and Zion. Which one are you taking? Chris Paul
Yeah,
and Ben
right.
Simmons. You're still taking CP. Donovan Mitchell, Damian Lillard, Gobert versus Julius Randle, Levine, Brown. Like the West is still significantly better individual talent wise, but Harden and KD being in the East is definitely a nice boost. But I thought the East did a pretty decent job. I'm glad Sabonis got in, and I'm glad Randall got in because Julius Randle has been going crazy this year. Unlike you, I think Ben Simmons should be there, especially being the 1 seed in the conference. I think they got to have 2 All-Stars. That's why I'm glad, Doc Rivers and the Sixers coaching staff are coaching the East in this game, and then Quinn Snyder and the Jazz coaching staff are coaching the Western Conference team. So I'm glad that each of the top teams got 2 guys in, but we talked about it with the NFL honors. When there's only a couple picks or a pick or 2 that you disagree with, then they generally do a pretty good job. So I thought that the NBA, the players, the coaches, I thought they did a pretty decent job picking the All-Stars this year.
Yeah, we're not up in arms over here about the All-Star selections at all. We're more just reading them and discussing them. No real arguments for me and Chandler, definitely. But why do I feel like Chandler? Ever since we were like 3 years old, the Eastern Conference has just been behind the West the entire time. Every All-Star game, it's just like it's when they like really put it in your face of just like how much more talented the Western Conference consistently is than the East. We see it every single year. And like you said, Harden coming to the East is a big boost. But every time it's like we always say like the West by far has the better roster. It's always what's going on. And like Harden switched to the East, but LeBron also switched to the West. It's like we lost LeBron and got Harden.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
LeBron went there a couple of years ago, but it's like if we do gain something, we also lose something. Someone from the East goes to the West. It always happens.
And I
I don't
think that's the
know.
big thing. I think that's the big thing. It's that it's people always go east to west. Kawhi
Yeah.
Leonard comes to the East for a year, says, nope, I'm going back west.
Yeah, I'm going back.
Paul George says, I don't want to be in Indiana. Send me west. Send me to California. LeBron says, send me to California, man. People don't want to be in the East. Chris Paul has never played in the East. Why has he played for 5 teams, but he's never played in the East? You know what I mean? Like it's people just want to be in the Western Conference. It's more competitive. I also think the dynasties too. I think that the fact that there's just dynasties in the West right now, it's the Warriors and the Spurs more recently than anything else.
Hmm.
Those are the teams that have dominated for a while, and those have been in the West. And then it's the warm weather cities, man. There's just better warm weather cities over there. There really are. It's the LA, it's the Golden State, dude, and they enjoy the weather. They
Yeah,
enjoy the weather.
these guys stay switching up, man. There's no loyalty to this Eastern Conference, and nobody got any faith in the Eastern Conference.
No loyalty in the NBA anymore. It's all because of Braun, man. 2010. It happened. It changed everything for the
It
NBA,
all
man.
it all
Player
stems
move.
back to the decision.
It honestly does. It is all different now. It's super team league now, Pat. But hey, I don't mind it.
Yeah,
Basketball is better than it has ever been, and anyone who debates that is just an old head or a hater, man. Because Kelly Olynyk would average 50 points a game playing against Bill Russell. It's just it is what it is. Kelly Olynyk would be pulling up from half court, in 1950. It's just a different game now. It really is.
yeah, truly.
But hey, we had fun talking basketball. Those all-star starters, man. Definitely excited to tune into the game. Some players have kind of said, we don't want to have this game. It seems kind of ridiculous to have this game with everything going on and COVID and protocols. I absolutely agree with that. LeBron was like, and De'Aaron Fox, well, it's just kind of dumb. Why are we traveling from all over the country and going through protocols and setting this up? Money. Money is the reason. Money will always be the reason. The fact that these guys don't outright say it is kind of funny to me, but it's for the love of the game and for the fans. And as much as people like All-Star Weekend, anyone can live without it. It's all about the selections. It's all about career status. It's not about the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like you said about money, it's like every sports league now, they got to do anything they can to get more income because there's no gates, there's no fans coming in like the
Right.
NBA. Well, I guess the NBA is having, I think there's been some fans at some games. I know the
Very
NFL had
minor,
some
though.
fans, very minor, right? You don't see many. There's like you
Couple
see like
thousand.
spotted all over the stadium and they got masks on, so it's still kind of a weird environment. The NFL had some fans. The UFC briefly had fans over at Fight Island, but they still have no fans. They have like 2 fans come along if you win like a contest. So that's really it. And you see like the NHL, they have oh yeah, the NHL had some fans. But they have the advertisements all over the place. You
Yeah.
see those are replacing where the fans were sitting in the stands. So they got to find some way to make income. And of course, you knew they were going to have an all-star game
Oh, yeah.
regardless of if it sounded dumb. You knew it was going to happen just because they need that income and they need the viewership, I think, too. So I get it. I understand. But I would agree with the players. I think you don't need it. But why would, if they don't have it, then you can't really get selected as an all-star. I think to have, like, if you don't have the game, you might as well just not have an all-star selection.
Yeah, that's fair. That is fair. There's a million weird things about this year and everything going on with COVID.
Yeah.
So everything's up in the air, and that is something we got to take into account, right? Everything's kind of rolling. They're figuring it out as they go. And Pat, quickly, just you mentioned the fans coming back. The Celtics announced that they're going to be having fans towards the end of towards the end of March. I cannot wait to go to a Celtics game. I cannot wait to be one of only like 3,000 people in the TD Garden screaming, going crazy. And I saw someone tweet out, they're like, man, that $9 Bud Light in that super uncomfortable TD Garden seat is just gonna hit different when when we're back. And I'm like, yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. I can't wait to go to a game again. I can't
Yeah,
wait.
looking forward to spending $200 on the ticket and $50 on concessions. Can't wait.
It's just the way it is, man. It all comes back to money, Pat. All comes back to money. Pat, I know that earlier I promised that we're going to be talking a little bit of running when I was mentioning some of my February running goals. So something I want to bring up is one of my favorite follows on Instagram is this runner named Hellah Sidibe. And Hellah right now is starting his run across America. I think that he is starting it today when we're recording this or maybe yesterday, but it'll be going on. So Hellah is running from Los Angeles to New York. And this is a ridiculous physical feat, and it's been done before. But I don't mean to say that as like, oh, he's doing something that's been done before. Only a couple people have done this before. This is not a common thing. This is 3,200 miles of running. And he's saying this could take up to 100 days, but it could be shorter. It could be 50. It could be 80. So he's going to do it as fast as possible. But Hellah is a phenomenal runner. This is a guy that has run ultra marathons, 7 marathons, 7 days in a row, 50-mile races, just doing a million different things, hundreds of miles in a specific month. And man, everyone just go check out Hellah Good 9 on Instagram because it's going to be phenomenal to follow this guy's journey. Something I absolutely love about this guy, Pat, is he's just so happy and so positive all the time. Like, Hoka sends him 10 pairs of running shoes before this, and he's just looking at it. He's like, guys, how cool is this? Like, they sent me all these shoes. Like, this is so exciting. And I just showed Pat a video. He's just saying, guys, we're starting the challenge tomorrow. Like, I'm just so excited. Go out, get yours, have fun. And he's got this big smile on his face, man. And he's doing his thing. And I'm just so excited to follow along this journey. I was saying to Pat before we recorded, I was like, man, I wish that I knew where he was going to be so that I could go run 10 miles with him, that I
Yeah,
could
you
go
go
run
just run
7 miles
alongside
with him.
him. He'd probably love it. He probably
Yeah.
would.
And that's something that runners have done in the past. They'll put out their location and they put out where they're running, and people just come and join them for miles at a time. And I wish I could go join this guy, but unfortunately, LA to New York, it would take me 4 hours to get to New York City anyways.
Just to get to New York alone, yeah.
Right. So it's probably a 5-hour drive to meet him where I can run with him for half an hour. But this guy's just incredible. I suggest everyone go check him out. Go check out his story and follow along this journey because he's doing something really cool and something that has not been done many times.
And did you say where he's starting? What's his starting point for this?
LA. So he's going LA to New York.
LA all the way through New York. And what did he say? Like 13 states or something like that? Or
15 states and
15 states,
3,200 miles.
3,200 miles. Damn. That's insane.
I
And
run a
he's gonna
5K and I'm like, I'm dying and my legs are cramping up like 3 miles. And I'm like, I got my run in today. And this dude's just out here running from LA
That's
to New
insane to
York.
be thinking like we'll be here. He'll still be running in like May,
Yeah.
possibly June. Right? Yeah, because the 3 months be like 90 days, so he'll still be running in June, pretty much.
There's a
At
very
least like
legit
right at
chance.
the beginning of June. Yeah, it depends. I mean, it depends how long it takes, really, if he's quicker or longer. But yeah, possibility that he's still running in June. So it makes sense that he's starting it now. He'll run through springtime before it
Yeah.
gets like too hot, and he'll definitely miss the cold weather. So that's awesome. I can't even imagine running across the state, let alone across the country.
I know. I would have to start with like Rhode Island because you can run across it. It's like 30 miles like wide or something, or like
Oh,
70.
true. Yeah,
So
you
like,
find like the shortest point. Yeah.
yeah, so you can do it. You can do it. But man, this is ridiculous. And the fact that you're going out and trying to do this is just incredible. Showing what the human body can do and showing just the limits that you can push yourself to. And that's part of why he's doing it. But he has a bunch of awesome sponsors that are helping it out. He's showing all these vegan supplements and food that people have been sending to him. And Hoka sends him 10 pairs of running shoes. And he's sponsored by Gymshark. So he has all the gear and he's ready to go. And I'm just really excited for it, man. This is really cool. I've listened to a couple audiobooks about people doing the same thing and the absolute grind that it takes and experiencing all the different cultures around the country as you're going and the different food and everything. And, this guy is about to go on a journey that is totally going to change him and, what he sees as limits for himself. And I'm excited for him, man. I'm pumped as an amateur runner myself over here. I just am so fascinated by people able to push themselves like this. And it's just really cool. So like I said, Hella Good 9 on Instagram, and he does, Hella Good Running Club. That's his thing. He responds to everybody, smiling, laughing, and he's just a great guy. I reached out to him, Pat, to try to get him on the pod, but you know, that being a few weeks ago, I didn't know that this endeavor was coming up. So he's clearly a bit busy. So I understand why he's not responding. But I don't think he wants to take a Zoom call from the road in the middle of a 40-mile day run. So
Yeah, he'd be doing the interview like on FaceTime while he's running, so which would actually be kind of cool. I'd be down for it.
hey, if he responds, if he happens to go find that DM, I can imagine a lot of people are sending him good luck and
Yeah, they're probably
shout
flooded
out
right
messages.
now. The DMs are probably flooded for Sidibe.
Hey, someday that'll be the right off the bus DMs too. They're gonna be flooded, Pat. We're gonna have all these fantastic fan questions, man. I'm telling you, they're gonna come in, Pat. And we decided to start that this week, Pat. We decided that we were gonna have some friends and some listeners sending questions to the show. So without further ado, we're gonna get into some listener questions now that we're done talking about a little bit of running. So this is a question that I really like. This is from our friend Shane. He was asking, can Clemson still be a superpower now that Trevor Lawrence is gone? What do you think about that, Pat?
Maybe not immediately. That is a good question, by the way. Maybe not immediately, but like you look at what Clemson's built over the past few years, and I don't think they're going anywhere. They're going to be like, not quite up to the status of Alabama, but they're going to be that consistent. I think they're going to consistently be a top 10, top 5 team in the NCAA for years to come. I don't think they'll be a superpower unless they get maybe I don't know who they're going to recruit for a
Right.
quarterback. They're obviously going to need to replace Lawrence if he goes to the NFL this year, which he'd be stupid not to. But I think there will be a superpower. I like maybe not like I said for the next couple of years, but I think as they're going to consistently have great recruiting classes, a top 3 recruiting class in the country, and I do think they will be for the years to come. Yeah, I would say they will.
Yeah, and like you said, I have no idea who their backup quarterback is, what other recruits are on the roster. So I don't know who's coming in, but when I was thinking about this question, I was like, no, I don't think they will be, but I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna say they will continue to be a superpower because Dabo Sweeney is one of the best coaches in NCAA, and also they remained a superpower transitioning between Deshaun Watson and Trevor Lawrence. So I know that's not like a very large track record, but I'm just gonna say that Dabo has figured it out and has recruited really well and has developed players very well. And I'm going to say Deshaun to Trevor Lawrence, I'm going to trust you, Dabo. I'm going to trust that you got another guy coming in that's going to dominate. And we'll obviously have to wait and see what happens. But, yeah, great question from Shane from Marshfield, man. and the next question we got it from our boy Matt Robles, man. He was asking, what's wrong with Liverpool? And, this was directed at me a little bit.
It's more of a question for you.
Obviously, since I'm the Liverpool fan here, we can't all be Man City fans, Pat. We can't be sitting 15 points clear
what's
at the
right
top
with
of the
Man
table.
City?
Everything. But what's wrong with Liverpool right now, Matt? It is simply just too many games. I was saying to Pat before the show, this team has had 18 different center back pairings this season, and their longest tenured one was 2.5 games. And it was Fabinho and Jordan Henderson, who are two center mids. So too many injuries, too many games. Everyone's getting hurt because of the condensed schedules because of COVID. These guys are just playing every single 3 days or whatever it is, rather than every 6 or 7 days. So it's tough. It's too many games, too many injuries. Y'all wait. We're gonna be back next season. Man City can only be up there for 1 year. Only 1 year.
Yeah, that was a good question, Matt. And I have no more to say on Liverpool. Chandler, I know you said with the injuries, I mean, there's just been a number of problems. I wouldn't say it's even a problem right now. It's just been a problem the whole season. I just don't think it was meant to be for them this year. But that was a good question. Man City, you know what? Their number will come. And in terms of Man City, I'll get into the next question from Keegan Nutt from Instagram. I know he was one of your friends. So he says,
shout out Stonehill Soccer over there.
Yep.
Nutt.
Who is more likely to win the Champions League in their current forms, Man City or Bayern? Man City, I tell you what, they got the best form in the world. They're playing the best soccer out of anybody, but there's no way I see them winning the Champions League.
What?
Dude, as a Man City fan, I mean, we always just flop we always flop in Europe. It's just the thing to do, regardless of having Pep. It's like we never come through. And we've done pretty well against Bayern in years past, but if it came up to Man City, Bayern in the Champions League final, both in their current forms, I just don't see Man City winning, regardless of how we're playing. I think Bayern gets it done. I think for some reason Bayern just thrives on the European stage. They thrive in Germany, but they're consistently a top 4 team in the Champions League. And I would say right now Bayern would win, regardless of Man City's form. And that's tough for me to say as a Man City fan. But I've been hurt so many times, year after year. Every time we're in Europe, we always flop and we always lose at some point.
You can't play Mönchengladbach every round, Pat. You can't.
Exactly.
It's that's what it is.
we play like easier teams, and I know Mönchengladbach's a good team, but like Man City should beat them. We always beat the teams that we should, but we just lose to that next step up in competition. It's those higher up teams that are on the same level of us, really, and we can't get it done.
Pat, I appreciate your self-awareness as a Man City fan.
Yeah, I'm a humble fan over here. I'm, same with the Ravens. I'm humble.
And I cannot believe that I'm the one here saying I would pick Man City in a Champions League final between these two, man, in their current forms. Sergio Aguero literally just came back to Man City. He's going to be coming off their bench because Ilkay Gundogan's somehow the best number 9 in the world from midfield. The dude is
I didn't see that coming.
The dude has somehow become an attacking mid extraordinaire, dude. He's like Kevin De Bruyne out there. But I'm going to pick Man City for this reason. Bayern are in a title race right now. And I think that the fact that Man City are so far clear at the top of the Premier League table, they're like 14 points clear or something, 12, 15, somewhere in there. Like they have games and games and games in hand like Liverpool did last year. So I think that Pep is going to be able to focus more on the Champions League this year than he has in the past, because even those phenomenal 100-point teams from a couple of years ago with Man City, they were still in title races. Like Liverpool was like 3 points behind them to end the season, or 2 points behind them, and they won a little bit more outright the year before. But right now, I think they got the time to focus on it, and I think we've talked about it before. Pep understands, man. He's got to do it. He's got to win the Champions League with Man City. He did it with Barcelona. He did it with Bayern Munich, man. Complete the puzzle, Pep. Complete the puzzle. You'll be one of the GOATs if you do this. You will be one of the greatest managers of all time, if he's not already. You
Yeah,
gotta you gotta go do it, man. You gotta
at
go
this
do it.
point, I'd rather him blow the Premier League and just go all in on the Champions League. Like, obviously, I don't want to see us slip and lose the Premier League, but like, if we had to, I would take absolutely blowing the Premier League and then securing the Champions League title, because that's all that matters at this point. I think any Man City fan, maybe not any Man City fan would agree, but I think a lot would sacrifice a league title for a Champions League title. I think that's a no-brainer.
I agree. You guys have plenty of league titles. You don't need any more. I am
Yeah,
totally with
we got
you.
we got cup title. Yeah, we got the FA Cup titles. We got the league title. We got
You got it
the
all.
League Cup titles. It's like we have everything else. Pep's got a number of trophies. The only thing he doesn't have is Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Pat. So, hey, our boy John from Framingham out there. John, thank you for submitting a question. Is if Danny Ainge doesn't make a trade or use that big old trade exception, is he legitimately on the hot seat? And Pat, I will say, immediately my thought is yes, because if you don't make a trade when you say you need to make one and you don't use the largest trade exception in NBA history, then I think that you should be fired. But the reason why I will say he is not on the hot seat is because he's Danny Ainge and it's the Boston Celtics.
Yeah,
I think that if this is a year 2 or 3 GM with a new team and you're trying to find your way and you're not making the right moves, you get fired. But I think that Wick Grossbeck and the rest of the owners, dude, I don't think that they're touching Danny Ainge. I don't think it matters what he does. I think that he's there. I think that's
yeah.
his job.
That was going to be my answer to this question too. I feel like Danny Ainge, for whatever reason, feels untouchable to me. It's like
He
it's
does.
not like any other team in the league. For some reason, it feels like the thought of like him being fired just it doesn't even pop into my head, regardless of the hot seat and not making a trade when you really, really need to. Like the team clearly needs something else. There's something missing from this team. I just don't see it happening. I don't know what John's thoughts on this are. I'll have to ask him, but I would say he's not going to be in the hot seat just for that reason. He feels untouchable to me.
Brad Stevens would get fired before Danny Ainge.
Yeah, and that would be a mistake,
Yeah, yeah.
but
No,
it is the more likely option.
all right, so Pat, our last two here, man. We got two kind of non-traditional sports questions, which I'm excited for both of these. So, my girl Josie, which one of my childhood best friends, one of my best friends, she's up in Rockland now. She's wondering, what defines a sport? And she said, "Can you talk about some non-traditional sports like dance or cricket or gymnastics? Like, what defines a sport for us?" Because I will say, I don't know if I consider cheerleading or dance a sport. They're all better athletes than I am. They all can do things that I can't. But I don't know. I don't know what defines a sport. I really don't.
It's tough because it's like there's team sports and then there's individual sports, right? Because you have the team sports, obviously the staples like hockey, basketball, football, but then you have your individual sports, which including mixed martial arts like the UFC. Like that's, I mean, it is a team sport in a sense because your team prepares you, but when the cage closes, it's an individual act. That is all on you. So it's a broad question. It's a profound question. It's tough to really say what defines a sport because there's team sports and there's individual sports. I don't know if you can like categorize them as those two things, but I would just say like competing in something. I think that's always been my sense of a sport. If you're competing in something, like I think I would consider dance a sport. Cheerleading's tough, but I think like they have legit competitions. Like if you ever
Yeah.
seen, so there was a show on Netflix. It was like a cheer show. Like they take it so seriously. Like those girls are like performing injured. Like
Oh yeah.
they'll fall from like 15 feet up, get messed up, and they'll literally just wrap it up and like they'll be back up doing it again. And they go down to like Florida and they take it crazy serious. And they have like it's like a season of work for like a minute routine. And I think I would consider cheerleading a sport in that sense. There's obviously times where like lower tier high school, like mine, it's more of just like a club. But at a certain level, I would say cheerleading is a sport. At a certain level, I would say dance is a sport because you look at dance is incorporated into like a number of sports, like figure skating. And
Mm.
off the top of my head, I can't really think of others, but sports like that, like I would consider dance a sport because you're competing in any sort of competition. I think that's for me what defines what a sport is.
Yeah, no, I'm sitting here thinking I would just love to be in my sports writing class in high school, which is more of a sport and communication class with Matt Ferrari at Westfield, dude. Shout out Ferrari, man. He was a great teacher, and I would just love to sit there and debate this because he would sit there with these philosophical like questions and devil's advocate kind of points to make you really think about the stuff. And it is hard. I don't know. I would have to sit down and think about this for quite some time and reflect on it. But yeah, I think the competition aspect, absolutely. And I think also you brought up a point like at a certain level,
Yeah,
it's a sport
absolutely.
like maybe, yeah, a bunch of little kids running around isn't a sport, but maybe once it's to an organized professional level, then it becomes a sport. I don't know. But when you think of competition and things like that, like, is a food competition show a sport? Is Chopped a sport? Because it's a competition based on certain variables where you have to go out and outperform other people given the same opportunity. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know what a sport is, man.
Yeah, right. Because it can't just be competition. Like that's a good point that you bring up. Because Chopped, MasterChef, it's like those two cooking shows. Like you wouldn't say MasterChef, cooking is a sport. It's a competition, but it's not a sport. So there's definitely something else that factors into it. I can't really say what, but I think competition is like the threshold where like it turns from like a hobby into a sport. It's the competition of it, and it's tough to say what else factors into it, but that's like the most vague line I can think of.
It is a sport when you train hours a day outside of performing the activity for it. That's what I'm going to go with. It is a competition that you must train for hours outside of performing it. That's going to be the really basic definition I'm going to rock with, because I don't think it can be called a sport if you don't grind on it, if it is not something you work heavily towards, which is why I don't consider like you know little league baseball like a legit sport. Like you're hitting off tees, you know what I mean? Like that's not a sport. Little kids playing on a soccer net that's this big, like that's like that's not a sport to me. Like it's a grind. It's something you work towards, and it is something that takes up a lot of time. That's what I would consider a sport. So I'd throw dance and all those cheerleading things into it once it's performed at a certain level with some consistency. I think that's what I'm gonna rock with.
Yeah, that was definitely a good question from Josie. That's one I'll have to think on for sure.
I like it. I like the non-traditional ones. And this is another one, man. Another friend of mine, another Westfield State grad, Jenna Ekstrom. So she's asking, why do sports bring us together so much? And she kind of brought up the fact that she doesn't follow sports that much, but being in New England, she sees that nothing brings people together more than our sports teams. And she's just asking, what do you think about that camaraderie, and what about sports is it that just brings everybody together?
Yeah, especially in the US, it's like sports are on such a high pedestal in the US. And I think the thing about sports is that it's like a sense of pride in where you come from. Like New England,
Mm-hmm.
I think New Englanders have, like, we've built so much success obviously in our sports, and that's a huge staple of pride for us. Like it's title town, Boston Celtics, the Boston Bruins, Gillette. Why did I say just? I just said Gillette. The New England Patriots, like New England Revolution. I mean, even though the Revs aren't amazing, but it's like it's a sense of pride in where you come from. I think any state would have the same pride. It's like the Yankees. New York has pride in their Yankees. A different section has pride in the Mets. It's like wherever you come from, it's like it kind of like defines your origin and where you come from. And then on the international level too, like when you look at the World Cup, you look at the US, like the World Cup brings it together on such a big level. It's like the US doesn't come together for anything except for
Mm.
nothing more so than an international sport, right? Because when the US soccer team performs at the World Cup and on like an international stage, that's just like it's patriotism. It's almost like patriotism but on like a reduced level when you talk about like individual teams. So like it's like patriotism of like Massachusetts or
Yeah.
patriotism of Missouri, like Kansas City. So I think for me, that's why it brings people together so much. It's like just a sense of pride.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And it makes me think of us talking to Jeff Lemieux a couple weeks ago, and him saying like, man, the 94 and the 98 World Cup, like that just absolutely drew me in, dude. And you just see all these different things around the world, man. And it is really interesting. It's a great question. And for me, I think about the fact that, it just creates communities. Like
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point.
I just mentioned that sports writing class, dude. This one kid, one of his projects, he showed a video of tifos in European soccer, man, and the people just around the world that there will be 1,000 Borussia Dortmund fans working 10 hours a day for a week straight before their derby with Schalke to put up a tifo that's like 500 feet long, and it's like they are just grinding on it and putting all this work in for a team just for a poster, man, this big old poster, and then they burn it after the match so that the other team can't steal it after putting in a week's worth of work on it, man. It's nuts. And it's just that sense of community. It's the fact that when we're at school, man, we got 10 guys just hanging out watching the games and having a good time, and you can go to a parade in Boston after a championship with a million strangers, and you are all happy, high-fiving, hugging, trading beers, getting excited, helping each other out, saying, no, this is where it just creates such an amazing community, man. And like you said, part of it is that like local nationalism. It's like, no, we got to represent Boston. Oh, he's a Boston sports kind of guy. He's a hardworking player. It's a representation of your city. It's a representation of you and your community, which is why I think it's so special, man. The way that it brings people together. Like you said, you don't see Americans come together on anything. But then every 4 years the Olympics rolls around, and every 4
Yeah,
years the
Olympics
World
too.
Cup
Yep.
rolls around, and it's like that's when we come together, man. And it really is incredible. And one more example I'll bring up real quick is down in Argentina after Diego Maradona passed away. Rip Diego, obviously one of the GOATs in soccer. The two biggest teams down there that absolutely hate each other, Boca Juniors and River Plate down in Argentina. Those fans literally kill each other at games. They beat each other. They will flip buses, dude. But after Diego Maradona dies, the Argentinian legend, the icon, like Messi times 10 to those people, they are in the streets crying and hugging each other, wearing the opposing jerseys. And it's like, man, when you see what the effect of an athlete or a sport has on people, it is special. It is special. This was my favorite question so far. So shout out Jenna for asking it, man. It is special what sports can do for a community and for people.
Yeah, and the biggest point, you kind of alluded to it too. It's like everyone wants to belong to something, right? Like
Mm,
you want to feel a sense that you're in a group. You want to be a part of something. You want to belong to some group or some organization. And I think that's part of it too, is that everyone has that inner feeling, that inner desire that they want to be a part of something. That's why New England especially has become so tight. It's like they're so successful in sports. Everyone wants to be a part of that. Everyone wants to feel like, I can throw on a well, I not personally, but I throw on a Patriots jersey and you're like, "Oh, I'm a part of that community." And yeah, I guess to sum it up, that would be that sense of belonging. That's the biggest thing about it.
And one more, I know I'm rambling. We said earlier we go too long for him, and I just sit here and I ramble. But another thing that I'm thinking about is one thing my brother says is, working in sales and in business, flying all around the country. He says the easiest icebreaker is sports every single time. If you go down to Texas, you are going to be able to talk football with people. That's simply how it is. And if you're in Louisiana, you can bring up LSU and anyone's going to know what you're talking about. And if you're in Boston and you're meeting someone and you're like, "Oh yeah, man, I hate the Yankees." Those bring people together. They are the best icebreakers, man. They are
Yeah.
the best way to get to know somebody. Anywhere you go in the world, you can talk to someone about a sport. Anywhere in the world, guaranteed. So I think that's another part of it. It's so global and so international, and everybody everywhere is involved in it, no matter what at some level, which I think is really, really neat. Well, guys, it was a lot of fun going through all those questions. I think that's going to be a new segment for Pat and I for sure. It was definitely fun to talk about a little bit of some different perspectives in the sports world, but we're going to get on to what we've learned. But before we do that, we got to fit in a quick ad from our most loyal sponsor here, Book Thinkers. So you guys know, but if you're reading personal development books, you got to run over and check out Book Thinkers. You can go search them on Instagram, look up Book Thinkers, or go over to bookthinkers.com. But every single day on Instagram and every week on their podcast, this team is just trying to help you discover new books and new mentors that can help you achieve more and live better. So get on over to their website, get on over to the Instagram and check it out. But now we're going to get back to what we've learned on today's show. So, Pat, I know you want to start and talk about your AFC North rivals there a little bit, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, my division rivals, the Steelers. I tell you what, they got a lot to figure out this offseason. There's three main things. So the key free agents, obviously, they're Juju. They might lose Juju. Bud Dupree, linebacker, they might lose him as well. He's a free agent. James Conner, the running back, because that's another thing. I mean, I don't know who their running back's going to be. Can you really start the season with Benny Snell as your running back? So I don't know what they're going to do in terms of a running back at all. Their projected cap space is minus $7 million as of right now. So it's not like they have much room to work with. I don't know where they're going to go from here. And another key thing to that budget too is that if they want to re-sign Roethlisberger, which they do, him and Big Ben also said that he wants to come back and run it back for another year. He has a $41.3 million cap hit due, the largest of any player in football. And it's split up into different chunks of like how he's going to earn it. But they're going to have to restructure in some way. I don't know how it works. I don't get into the budgets and the cap space in terms of in any sport, really, NBA, NFL. But they get a lot to figure out with Big Ben if they're going to somehow restructure a deal because they have that cap hit due. They have absolutely no cap space to work with. And in terms of receivers and a running back, I mean, they're going to be in rough shape. So the Steelers could be a great team, but it's looking less and less like they're going to sign J.J. Watt because I can't imagine J.J. Watt running into that situation. They're not going to be able to sign him. They can't afford him. So I don't think J.J. Watt's going to Pittsburgh. That's good news for me as a Ravens fan. Bad news if you're a Steelers fan. I think they'll figure something out, but I tell you what, if Joe Burrow comes back for the Bengals and the Bengals get some good draft picks, you could see a Cincinnati team that's coming up over the Steelers here. It might go, we might see Ravens, Browns, Bengals above those Steelers. I know the Steelers just went 12-4, so that's might be a bold statement. But that might be my bold statement of the next coming up NFL season.
Yeah, man, it wouldn't surprise me. It would not surprise me. The Steelers definitely have a lot to figure out this offseason. And as a Patriots fan, man, Steelers are definitely one of my top 3 least favorite teams in the NFL. So I don't mind seeing them do badly. I definitely don't. But Pat, what I've learned this week, man, is the NBA just has to fix this pandemic that is floating around the NBA, man. The flopping pandemic. It has just been so egregious the past couple weeks. All these players pump faking and then just diving in on 3-point shots. And you see people shooting 3-pointers and they're like leaning like this over the 3-point line, like because they're just leaning in so far trying to get calls. It's driving me absolutely nuts. The players that get hit like this, they tapped in the forehead and then they just fly back and flop. Dude, it's driving me absolutely crazy. I think that the NBA, after the All-Star break, I think would be a good time to put in. I think they need to just implement a new set of rules calling fouls and bump up the flopping fines. Flopping should be a technical. I don't even think it should just be a $10,000 or $15,000 fine after a game. I think you should get a technical foul if you flop egregiously during a game because the amount of people just throwing their heads back and flying out of bounds. I'm watching the Celtics Wizards last night and Robin Lopez gets a small little forearm from Tristan Thompson, and the guy flies 15 feet on the ground. You're 7 feet tall and 260 pounds, and you're going to go that far? We're getting a little push. It is really egregious. It is really not fun to watch as a basketball fan. Guys like Kyle Lowry, LeBron, dude, the list just goes on and on. Joel Embiid. Bro, you're 7'1". No one's knocking you over. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I'm sick of the flopping in the NBA, man. And I know I'm just repeating myself, but I'm fired up right now because I think it's ruining basketball in a sense. I really do. I think there needs to be graver punishments. And I think the league needs to seriously think about changing these rules now. I don't think this is something we can wait on. I don't.
People think about like soccer as the flopping sport, but like the NBA's, you got to take a look at the NBA here. It's been pretty bad for a few years now. It's the flopping. It just gets worse. I know like LaMelo Ball had an egregious one. Then what was the one with it was like Harden and Kawhi? No, I can't remember. Now
Kawhi had an offensive foul on Harden.
I'm just speaking out of pocket. I was like, I'm speaking out of pocket. I can't remember.
He drove with his forearm forward, and it was an offensive foul. And Harden's flying back, and it's
Yeah.
not an offensive foul. It's
bad.
just it's not. And you brought up soccer, dude. One of my coworkers is like, "Oh no, the flopping's way worse." And I was like, as someone who consumes a lot of basketball and a lot of soccer, flopping in basketball is absolutely worse. Absolutely. I will say in soccer, the extreme ones are worse
Yeah.
because and everyone goes and thinks of the same play immediately. I know you're thinking about Neymar rolling around on the ground right now because that's what people think of when you think of a soccer flop. But the NBA does it much more often, man, and there needs to be a change, and there needs to be a change soon. It's
You know what the
not
biggest
fun.
difference is that I see? I think soccer has the better actors because when you look at the NBA, it's so obvious when they flop. It's really obvious. It's so
Yeah.
bad. So
Yeah, and you
I
got
don't know
10
if
cameras on you, man. You got
the
10
NBA's
cameras.
they gotta get their acting skills up because soccer, they know how to play it out. I mean, like you said, they got Neymar rolling on the ground, and that does get a little obvious. But like they're better at playing it off like it actually happened. And the NBA, I mean, when you see a flop, it's like it never makes
Yeah.
sense. And you could see it from the nosebleeds. You could see it from you're watching from the kitchen making food, and it's like on TV in the living room. You can tell that a guy is flopping.
Literally, man, and it really is just getting worse and worse. And when there's 10 cameras on you and you know that there are, why are you still doing it? When you know that they're gonna go back and watch it and make fun of you and you're gonna get fined, why are you doing it? Like Bradley Beal has mastered knowing that there are cameras on him. He makes the funniest facial expressions during every game, just all these side eyes and like looking crazy. And Josh Hart does it too. Josh Hart knows that there's cameras on him all the time, and it creates a lot of funny clips. But I don't know why players haven't realized it in the reverse. When you're doing stupid things, when you're flopping, when you're flying around the court, when you shouldn't be, man, like, oh, Pat, I'm sorry. I know I'm just angry and keep going at this. Like I'm literally like rubbing my thighs over here, like nervous energy, just like I'm getting angry and want to be
You're
moving
riled
around.
up.
Like
Might have to wrap this up here.
I think it's time, Pat. I think it's time for you to bring us home, man, because I don't know if I can do it today.
Yeah. Well, that's the end of episode 10. It was great. We had some different topics today. I think we're gonna try to mix it up a little more. I know NFL's been a big talking point, but NFL season's done. Obviously, we'll hit on the big headlines, the free agents, and we'll continue from there. It'll be a little bit different each episode. We'll keep mixing it up. Hopefully, keep it interesting for you guys. Hopefully, keep the fan questions going because we love those. Like Chandler said, we love talking about it. But yeah,
Send them
thank you
in.
yeah, feel free to send us a message on Instagram. We're going to launch our website here soon. You'll be able to submit questions on there. That'll go right to our email. We'll be checking our email regularly. So any way you want to reach out, feel free. Leave a comment on YouTube, like, follow, subscribe, leave a review if you can, if you'd like. Apple Podcasts. Not sure where else you can even leave a review, but
I don't
leave
think
us
you
a
can on
review.
Spotify.
Yeah, I didn't think so either. But yeah, Apple, leave us a review if you got the time. We would love and appreciate that. But yeah, thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.
Peace.
You are listening to Right Off the Bus.